joining us right now on the line. Lucky to call him a friend, former presidential candidate, former Chicago congressman, and boy, White Flag with Joe Walsh is a great podcast. Joe Walsh joining us right now on the line. Joe, always a pleasure to have you on, my friend. How are you?
Brian, give J.D. Vance hell.
I will. If they allow me to ask a question, Joe, these are the two questions I would ask him, and I want to get your thoughts on this. I would say, first of all, there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud that could have changed the outcome of the election. Why won't you answer the question, who won? And then my second question would be, you have made up these lies about these legal Haitian immigrants. It's been disproven. Why are you doubling down on it, and why won't you apologize? I mean, those are the two questions I would ask, Joe.
They're good questions. And he stood in front of the American people last week, and he said that Donald Trump did not lose in 2020. You think about that, Brian. A candidate for vice president of these United States said that Donald Trump did not lose the last election. That's utterly disqualifying. But look, I'm talking to you on the phone. I'd rather be face-to-face with you, but I'm in Pennsylvania, and I'm going to be in Pennsylvania today. I'm going to see the second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, in a little bit at a rally in Northeast Pennsylvania, rallying Republicans for Kamala Harris. And, Brian, in your state, in Pennsylvania, this election's neck and neck.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm glad you're out there, and Doug seems like a really nice guy. I'm glad you're doing that, Joe. I got to ask you this, and I can't believe I even have to ask you this, but what do you make of Donald Trump over the weekend at a rally with family there and children talking about Arnold Palmer's genitalia? I mean, it just seems to get worse and worse with this guy.
And it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what he says. And I got to watch myself because it is terrestrial radio. But, Brian, you know, he could say anything, and it doesn't matter. He said it years ago. He could almost do anything, shoot somebody in the middle of New York City. It does not matter. This is who he is. The hope is that, you know, folks who, Brian, I still think there are more undecided people than all the experts say, but hopefully stuff like that just reminds them of really how, not just how horrible a person Trump is, but how the next 4 years would be utter chaos and nothing will get done if he were in the White House.
It's scary, and you're probably right. I just don't understand how someone could be undecided at this point. You don't know who Kamala Harris is. You don't know who Donald Trump. I mean, I don't understand it, Joe. But I hear you. There's a lot of people out there that probably are still undecided. One other Donald Trump question I want to ask you over the weekend. There's a lot I could ask you, just what took place in the last couple of days. He shows up at this McDonald's. Everything's staged, right? The store is shut down. They rehearse drive-through supporters. He puts on that stupid apron. I say stupid, all due respect to people who work at McDonald's, because he looked stupid and uncomfortable and weird. And then his supporters are like, oh, there's that everyday hardworking American Donald Trump. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, Joe.
And it's actually, Brian, the perfect juxtaposition, the difference between him and Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris literally worked at a McDonald's to help get through college. 40-some years later, Donald Trump stages a fake appearance at a McDonald's. It goes to this notion that, and the longer I've been out here campaigning in every battleground state, campaigning for Kamala Harris, I may disagree with her on plenty of policy, but she's real. She loves this country, and she'd like to be president for everybody. Trump's an absolute dishonest, grifting son of a bitch, and this race shouldn't be tied.
Why do you think it's so close? I get asked this question all the time, and my response is, well, I think there's a lot of stupid people in this country, and there's people...
No. If I were in your studio right now, I'd slap you upside the head.
Why? Why am I wrong?
Here's why this election's close. We're a dangerously divided country, so both sides are dug in. So your side, my side, they can do and say the worst things, and hardly any of us will budge. But here's the other reason, Brian. Donald Trump has done a masterful job of lying to, pissing off, and demagoguing working-class Americans. But the Democrats increasingly, Brian, I would argue, have grown arrogant and out of touch with working-class Americans. That's the problem. Working-class Americans have been moving toward Trump's lies and demagogues, not just white working class Americans. And for too long, Democrats have ignored them, and too many Democrats don't know how to speak to them, so they buy into Trump's lies.
Okay, so let me push back on what you're saying, and you can tell me whether you agree or not. Donald Trump, as you know, had the highest tax breaks for the top 1%. The reason why minimum wage has been rising and the reason why unemployment is as low as it is, a big part, is because of Democrats. And when you look at every government program, whether it be food stamps or welfare or maternity leave, that's not because Republicans have passed those bills. It's because Democrats have voted those bills into action. And if somebody, your everyday person, doesn't understand that, at a minimum, maybe stupid is the wrong word, but I would maybe ill-informed. Why is that the fault of Democrats?
Well, and I'm not arguing with you on the substance of everything you just said.
Yep.
All I'm saying is, and the data backs it up, Democrats are losing and have lost a lot of this cohort of the population. Mm-hmm. So why? Why is it? And everything you just said may be true, Brian, but you talk to these folks, the issues of immigration, crime, and I'm just going to say the cost of bread and the cost of milk, whatever, these have been front and center for a number of years now. Republicans demagogue these issues, right? The issue of immigration is a big issue. What does Trump say? He tries to scare the you-know-what out of these folks by saying, there's crime on every street and they're eating your cats and the dogs.
Right.
But the problem is, for too long, Democrats have ignored the issue of immigration and the border. And it's a real issue that decent Americans care about. So on the one hand, they got Trump lying to them. On the other hand, they've got the Democrats. And let's be honest, Bri, I'm all in with Kamala Harris, but for 3.5 years, Biden and Harris ignored the border. And that's Trump's been able to make that argument.
I think he has, and I think the argument that they're making in turn is, well, we had this bipartisan border bill in place, Joe.
I know.
You know.
Too little, too late. Unfortunately, and it shouldn't be, but unfortunately, it's probably too little, too late. Well, just on that issue.
I understand where you're coming from there, and that's fair criticism, but let me ask you this. We are now 2 weeks out. What is your sense? What is your feeling? Has it changed? Because last time I spoke with you, you felt like, and I know you don't want this to happen, Trump was going to win. Have you changed your mind at all, or do you still feel like right now, 2 weeks out, Trump still has the edge?
And by the way, Brian, to get back to that last question, I want Democrats to have candidates like you and me, just good, solid, everyday guys who can frickin' sit down at a bar, order some tequila, and have at it with an average knucklehead at that bar.
Right.
Democrats for too long have become like wealthy, wine-drinking, college-educated suburbanites who live in these gated communities. They need candidates who can relate to the average person. Now, where's this race at?
Yeah.
I think if the election were held tomorrow, I think Trump would eke out an electoral victory. But I was in Arizona over the weekend. I'm in Pennsylvania today. I'll be in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and maybe back in Nevada this week. I feel, Bri, momentum on Kamala Harris's part. I've noticed something in the last 4 or 5 days. So if I told you right now I think he'd eke out a victory, I'm feeling bullish on Kamala with 16 days to go, being able to, with momentum, to turn this thing around.
I certainly hope so. To what you said earlier, it's interesting. If you go to Mar-a-Lago, you don't see your typical Trump supporters. You see a bunch of middle-aged white billionaires, and those are Trump's buddies that he gave those tax breaks to. And, I went to an Obama rally, Joe, over the weekend, and it looked like America, man. I put out a video that went viral, and I said, this is what America looks like. Diversity, black, white, no matter what the color of your skin was, it was diversity and good, hardworking people. And I got to tell you, Joe, I know you didn't vote for Barack Obama, but I think you would agree with me. This is a decent man who was a wonderful speaker and extremely intelligent. And I miss that. I miss that among our leadership, Joe. I really do.
Which is one of the reasons we need Kamala Harris in the White House. You saw also over the weekend Donald Trump, and I can't say it on the radio, called Kamala Harris an absolute, and it rhymes with hit, and it begins with a C, vice president. Or it begins with an S, excuse me.
Yeah.
Who wants that in the White House? I mean, it's just ugly hate. We don't want that.
No, we don't. Joe, I love what you're doing. Keep up the great work. If Kamala Harris does cross the finish line and is a winner, it's going to be partly because of people like you. Say hello to the second gentleman for me. He's a great guy. And if you're coming back here into Nevada, drinks on me, my friend. Always appreciate your time, and you have a great podcast. And safe travels, my friend. Enjoy it out there.
Give J.D. Vance hell. Give him hell, Bry.
I will, and I'll mention your name, too.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. Joe Walsh, everybody. I love Joe. He's the best. Former presidential candidate, former Chicago congressman.